So welcome back, everybody. This is going to be a super exciting episode. As you can see, we're back over at the river property, and we're going to be building some much needed stairs to actually access the river on this property. We have very steep banks all the way up and down, 10 to 12 foot drop offs. This is the only flat walking area that we have on the property to access the river. So this is where we're going to build some stairs. Eventually we'll do a floating dock, but this gives us access to walk, fish, jump in the river, or pull and tie up a boat. While this isn't necessarily a how-to, this is my first set of stairs I've ever built, river stairs. We are going to show a lot in this episode, and maybe you might learn something. Now, because this river does flood, it happens, it's a river, the water can come all the way up and over to where we're standing right here in extreme cases. So because of that, I have decided we're going to put concrete piers and pylons down in as deep as we can get them, tie everything in, rebar it up, and then we're actually going to put brackets and plates on top that we're going to tie our 6x6 post into. Long story short, especially way down there, it stays damp enough often enough. I do not want wood contacting the ground because it'll just rot out. And I should also mention, we had to meet with an environmental department to go over this plan. They had extremely strict rules. So if you're wondering why we don't slope the bank, why we're not doing concrete stairs or all these other things, we are building specifically as we were told, with wood, specific sizes. They had very stringent rules that we have to follow. They gave us the thumbs up. They've already did a site evaluation. So we're building to their plans. All right, so let me show you what I've been working on. Been out here quite a while, no point in recording, stream moving, just trying to get my layout correct. So you can see I've been shoving some rebar in, holding up my level, getting my strings perfectly level this way, and I went ahead and made out my landing right here. So if you take a look, we're perfectly level here because we're gonna do a 6-foot landing and then a few stairs coming down to the ground right here. And then on the other side of that landing, the stairs go up this bank. Now you can see how steep it is now that I'm down here. So I've got my width correct because we're gonna be doing 48-inch steps. So I've got to set my 6x6 post in. We're capping on the outside with 2x12s. And then I want an inch overhang with my 5/4 deck boards on either side. So I went ahead and calculated all that in. So I just marked my holes, which we're gonna come back and drill out tomorrow. The radar is blowing up with rain right now. No point in digging these holes just to have them wash in. And I'm hoping we're gonna hit rock down here on the bottom, because as you can see, this whole area is nothing but big solid slabs of rock. I'm sure it's right beneath this sand. That way when we pour concrete, we're really locking on like the solid bedrock here. Okay, so we're going to take advantage of this new Bombalite hydraulic auger that I just got and the extended reach of my excavator to drill some holes way down here, down the river. And you can see I'm able to put this on my machine and my tractor because I've got that special dipper buddy attachment right there, as it's called. It allows me to hook up tractor implements on the front of my excavator. See, I'm already hitting rock, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I want to hit rock. like absolute butter. Well, no doubt this combo certainly made that job a whole lot easier than digging by hand, and I actually dug even deeper with this than I can dig by hand, because post hole diggers have to spread apart in order to pinch the soil and pull up. I couldn't get anywhere near as deep as I did with this. So with this setup the way it is, I was able to get all the way up to here. Some of these holes are 7 foot deep. Obviously, I can't clean out any deeper with these holes. One got a little off center because we're hitting rock. That's a good thing. And I'm gonna go grab a long 4x4 and pack the bottom of these before we put concrete in them. All right, so here we are at the end of day one and the pour, and the reason I haven't recorded a whole lot or put the camera on myself much is because I got so overheated earlier. It was 117 on the heat index. I had to wind up putting on swimming trunks, and yes, I'm wearing Crocs. And I had to keep hosing myself off because I just about got overheated, and I do not want heat stroke. It's the only way I was able to continue to work today. Well, here we are back down here for day 3. I'm making a rush trip back down because we need to tie these pillars together or pilings together because I have some concerns. But one thing worth mentioning, I don't think I'm going to be able to zoom in on the GoPro, especially now that it went in the shade. I've been working down here so much, making so much noise the last 3 days that alligators have just started swimming up and checking me out, and I keep forgetting to record. All right, you can see his head's now coming out in the sun right there. He's just cruising across the river right there, checking me out. I've had them anywhere from about 3 foot to 7 foot. The bigger ones, they don't come up close. The little ones, I've literally had them swim right down the bank right here when I'm running things like the concrete mixer. I guess that odd noise has got them curious. All right, we've got a tremendous amount of rain on the way. I ain't gonna lie, I've been up since 3:30 this morning, panicking, thinking about it, because we did not find rock, which was so shocking here, only a couple. I am highly concerned, especially for this one. It's kind of down in pipe clay. And if we get all this rain they're calling for the next week, many, many inches, this river may come up into this area. And the last thing I want is this area getting saturated and these sinking down into the ground, into that pipe clay. This one's on solid rock, so I want to tie this one to that one to help support each other. These both are quite questionable, but it is what it is. I've just packed this area down really good. So what I want to do is drill into each of these with rebar, epoxy it in, make a form on either side, and pour across this hard ground here and here, essentially creating like a tie beam or a bond beam, bonding both pillars together to support each other. So if one starts sinking, it transfers that weight into the other one. Especially for this one, that's critical because this one is on rock. That one is not. So if it starts to sink, it's got to cave this entire ground in now that we have them connected together with that bond beam. It's the only thing I can come up with on short notice. It's already 110 on the heat index, even though it's morning. It's supposed to be around 117 today. I'm gonna do a little bit of recording, and then I'm getting half naked, soaking myself, and probably not gonna record anymore. All right, so here we are with our, what I'm calling like a bond beam poured, about 6 inches thick. This one over here is about 7 inches thick because it goes down past the 2x6s. 5/8 rebar drilled in to each pier, both sides. We're gonna let this cure. Fingers crossed. It's already starting to cloud up. There's rain on the radar. All right, so I'm going all cordless for this build. I had to buy me a couple extra DeWalt batteries, and I got a couple of free tools along with that battery purchase. One is this SDS hammer drill, which I've already done use down here for 3/4 inch holes. And shockingly, to be cordless, this thing is awesome. It's not gonna have a problem drilling these 1/2 inch holes. And I've got a ton of concrete work coming up, so I'm gonna be putting this to use. I wanna set my depth a little deeper than the fastener, because there's always going to be dust that remains in the hole, and we don't want to tighten down on that. I also bought me a can, an air duster can, which is just compressed air to blow these holes out, because that's a critical step. All right, so the landing is done without railing, of course, and I'm at a point to where this is not a teaching moment because I'm trying to figure out my stair stringers right here, the rise, the run, the stair tread depth, and ultimately all the angles right here, and it can be a bit complicated. Luckily, there is calculators online, but I'm kind of winging a lot of this, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, to a way that I think is just gonna make sense. Now, ultimately, whenever it comes to a stair step up to the next one, you want to stay between 7 and no more than 7 3/4 inches. That's because your mind kind of naturally remembers a step up, a step down, and a lot of, well, I guess authorities have determined you have the least amount of tripping hazard within that range right there. Now, I know in Florida, for example, you can't go over 7 3/4 inch stair height, but you can go less than that, and we most likely will. But we're going to have to figure out our stair height based in the length that I'm about to cut off and determine here, all the way up to there. It gets a little complicated if you haven't done this a lot, and I certainly have not. So I'm about to pull this board off over there, put it to the side of this deck that I know is perfectly level, draw me a line, because The stair stringers are actually going to set on top of this deck, and then we're going to attach to that. That's a nice sturdy design. So I'm starting to put on my stair treads, and before I run out of room, I am going to reinforce these stringers. I'm going to show you what I'm doing. By the way, I'm also capping the front of the stair treads, tying this one to that one to that one, which gives me strength this way. So this one is supporting the center section, which is supporting the outside, tying all three stringers together, giving me a tremendous amount of strength. When I notched these stair treads, I decided to leave a little less up here and do more of an overhang, especially since I'm capping the front and bringing these out. but I've left over 5 inches here, which is what's recommended for a notch on a 2x12 stringer. So these are very strong. But I've decided to go ahead and make these even stronger and do something called sistering. And I wanted to show you what that is. So you see I got some 2x6s in here, one over there. I'm actually gonna attach it to the side of each stair stringer here, here, and over there. Screw those in all the way up and down. And that's essentially stiffening up my stair stringers right here. Now, yes, if your pulling permit's going to code, you're probably going to want to go a step further. Due to the length, sistering may not be allowed per your inspector. You may have to put about every 6 feet an actual post in the ground, do reinforcement, but this already feels unbelievably strong as is. This isn't like some big deck right here where there's going to be tons of people on it. It's only a few at a time. And I'm going to sister all 3 stringers. I've left adequate amount. This is going to be unbelievably robust, stout, and should not have any sag in it. Okay, so all the handrail support posts are in, and I left them long because we're gonna be doing some trimming off here. And I got them about every 6 feet. That should be adequate for support. All right, so here's the thing. You see the angle of the stair stringers right here? I wanna match that up to my handrail that runs up, and then we'll do flat across for the landing, and then I wanna match that same angle right there going up here. I just got me a new level in yesterday that's got a really cool feature. There's lots of ways you could do this, but since I'm always gonna have a level with me, check out the bubble level on this end. You can spin it to whatever degree you want, although I don't find them that accurate, but I don't really care. So what I can do is put this level down here, spin that bubble until it's perfect, and now I can come over here on this post, for example. I know I want to do my rails about 40 inches up from the bottom, which is a little high, but I like the way that feels for leaning on. So I drew a line right here at 40 inches, or a little mark. All right, once the bubble got perfect, then I can transfer my line right there. And I know that angle is going to match the same exact angle on the stairs. It's just aesthetically going to be pleasing to the eye. All right, so here we are after a few very long and hot days of work. We have us stairs that are ready. Now I should say there's gonna be a part 2 to this. I'm still trying to decide if I'm gonna do railings halfway down in the middle, you know, keep a dog in. We don't really have children down here or anything like that, but it's on my mind. Yes, I see the stairs are open, but I purposely designed them that way. This is not like house railings and stairs to where I have to have balusters every 4 inches or things like that. So the reason I really want to keep this railing open, I've explained it earlier, the river is going to flood, stuff's gonna flow through here, and if I have balusters everywhere, sticks, limbs, things are gonna pile up, and that's gonna put a tremendous amount of pressure and force on this entire structure. I would much rather, if something does float down big in a flood, although these trees are technically gonna block it, but say a log comes through, I would rather it knock a railing over, break a 4x4, I can come back and easily replace that stuff. What I don't want damaged is the main structure, which took a long time to build. That's why you're not seeing balusters and stuff everywhere. It's very common up and down riverbanks just to see basic stairs in the side, no railings at all. And that's because we all know debris and stuff's eventually gonna hit them in a flood. So you can see I did little stair step ups here. These are removable, pop 4 screws out. I can take these away whenever we come and build a nice deck out here. We're just gonna flush it right up to this top step. That's why this is built in the kind of odd way that it is. We have future plans here. All right, let's take a step down. This is so nice, y'all. I can actually access my river, and we're one of the few properties up and down this river that has this unique flat area to go down and fish. That's why I wanted to get these stairs here. This just increased the value of the property to me so much to be able to tie a boat up right there for the weekend, jump off in the river, swim, go down here and fish. There's a huge deep hole right here, so we're gonna call that the catfish hole. So these are 4 foot wide stairs. I can legally build up to 5 foot, but 4 sounded good for material reasons. Let's go on down to the little landing. I had specific rules. The landing can't be too terribly big. It could be bigger than this, but you basically can't build a deck. So small landing. When the river does come on up a few feet, water starts flowing through here. It'll flow underneath. That's gonna be kind of cool. Again, you can see I built these 40 inches high, kind of tall, but perfect. Come down here with your favorite cold beverage, set it right here, look up and down the river. And coming up in a future episode, I have got a very unique sitting area down here. So if we want to come down here and sit and kind of look back upriver, we can do that and just enjoy the afternoon. Obviously, we got a swing and everything else over there. And as we come on down, let's take a look at the outside edge here. I'm very nervous about our first flood just because of the type of material we're built on. A lot of clay and stuff under the ground here. Not very solid. But hopefully the way I did these and tied them all together as I've done explained, hopefully we're good to go. Definitely not worried about that huge landing pad right there going anywhere, especially the way I've got it locked into the ground. I probably overbuilt everything doing out of 2x12s and all, but nice and sturdy. Hopefully this is here for years and years to come. I also screwed everything, no nails. Last I checked, I did over 500 screws in this, plus galvanized 1/2-inch bolts. I didn't spare any expense whenever it come to locking it together. And the reason I did screws, because they're robust, they hold very well, they don't back out. We'll eventually be walking up and down here barefooted, so I don't want nails slowly working them way out and hitting that. Plus, if any of this wood splits, rots, has issues, you just pop a couple screws out, replace your board, have access to anything. I can pop a board out right here and tighten up these nuts in the future, like on my big carriage bolts in there. I just like the idea of screwing and galvanized bolting everything together. So all of our wood is completely off the ground, no ground contact. That should help with rot. This is something that was so much needed. Now we actually have physical walking access. We can bring the dog down, my wife, the cooler, fishing rods. Oh, this is just gonna make it so nice for the property. Coming up here very soon, we're in the final stages of getting house build plans approved. It sounds really promising at the moment. We're finishing up so last little bit of requested environmental work. So we may be doing our fish camp build here before long. All right, we'll see you on the second episode to this, where we're gonna do some fun stuff, some lights, some seating, a few other things. Might even wet a line back there in that episode. We'll catch you on the next one.